By now, most people know that intermittent fasting is one of the best tools that you can use to accelerate your fat loss and your health. If you don't know that, I have other videos on intermittent fasting, how to do it and the proven benefits. This video is for you if you're already doing intermittent fasting or know how to do intermittent fasting and are about to start doing an intermittent fasting plan, and you want to know how to make intermittent fasting work faster. These 5 tricks and the bonus tip at the end of the video are going to help you burn some extra body fat and make intermittent fasting work quicker. Don't forget to stay to the end of the video to get all of the information in the bonus tip, and in the bonus tip I'm actually going to share with you exactly what foods to eat to break your fast, because that makes a big difference in how much body fat you're going to lose depending on what foods you choose to break your fast with. If you do want to learn more about intermittent fasting or how to lose body fat or even how to build muscle, that's what I teach on this channel. I upload on Mondays and Thursdays, so consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. If you do, there's just a little bell. If you click that, YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. I have here all of the things that we're going to talk about in the video, so I'm going to list them out for you and then you know exactly what's coming. So tip number 1 is extend your fast. Tip number 2 is drink black coffee. Tip number 3 is fasted cardio. Tip number 4 is get more sleep. Tip number 5 is increase your potassium. And tip number 6 is the bonus tip. I'm doing this so that I can lay it out for you and it makes it easier for you to know what's coming. Tip number 1, let's start off with something simple but very effective. And I love the acronym KISS. It's something that the military use and it stands for Keep It Simple Stupid. And that's what we're going to do with the first tip. So one of the best things you can do to make intermittent fasting work faster is to just extend your fast by 1 hour. So if you're doing a 16-8 plan, and let's say for example you eat your first meal at 12 p.m, I want you to push that first meal back to 1 p.m. So just 1 hour into the day. That extra hour is going to allow you to burn more body fat. It's going to allow you to keep insulin lower. It's also going to increase autophagy. The further you go into the fast, the more autophagy that is happening in the body, and that's really good for repairing damaged proteins and damaged cells. It does seem like a very basic idea, but you need to understand and see the bigger picture. So if you're extending the fast 1 hour every day, which only seems like a small action to do, that's 7 hours per week, that's 28 hours per month, and over the course of a year that's 336 hours extra fasting that you got from just pushing that first meal back 1 hour into the day. So it's all the small little actions that we take each day that lead to big results over the course of a few years. Tip number 2 is consuming 1 to 2 cups of black coffee during the fasting period. I always recommend black coffee, and the reason is because the caffeine in the coffee suppresses your appetite. So if you start to feel a little hungry, the caffeine in the black coffee will help you extend the fast a little further. It doesn't matter if your goal is more fat loss or if you're just trying to be healthier by doing intermittent fasting. Black coffee is a must. Black coffee really is an all-rounder. It's really good at everything. It's going to increase your energy, it's going to suppress your appetite as we said, but it also boosts your metabolism, and that's how it's going to help you burn more body fat. Not only is it going to help you, like I said, go longer, you'll burn more body fat because your metabolism gets a boost from the black coffee, not to mention the antioxidant benefits of coffee as well. I don't recommend drinking black coffee first thing in the morning, which is very common. People like to drink their coffee early. The reason is because naturally in the body we have higher cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone, in the morning. It's not an issue, it's just something that humans have. And so by adding that caffeine, that coffee in there, you're going to spike the cortisol even more, which is not something we want to do. It's a catabolic hormone, it breaks things down. I recommend drinking black coffee once you start to feel hungry or around 3 to 4 hours into your fasting period. You might be hungry first thing in the morning for maybe 10 minutes, but that'll soon go away if you just be patient with the fast. So around 3 to 4 hours into the day, or when you start getting hungry. And if you want to have a second black coffee, you can have that maybe 1 to 2 hours before you break your fast when you're hungry. Now, I don't recommend more than 2 cups a day, and also if you're having a pre-workout shake, if you're going to go to the gym and you consume supplements like pre-workout, then I don't recommend 2 cups of coffee, because 2 cups plus a pre-workout, now you're having too much caffeine throughout the day. So if you're going to have the pre-workout before you work out, then I recommend just 1 cup a day. If you are new to black coffee, then it's simply just black coffee and hot water. You can't add any sugar, any milk, any cream, anything like that is going to break your fast. Tip number 3 is fasted cardio. I'm a massive fan of doing fasted cardio. Doing cardio with no food in your body will help you burn body fat so much quicker. Almost any activity you're doing whilst you're in that fasting period, body fat is going to be used to fuel that activity. Whether you're sitting, standing, running, walking, working out in the gym, most of the energy that you need is going to be converted by breaking body fat down. I would say that this tip and all of the tips in this video are only going to work for fat loss if you are in a calorie deficit. All of these tips won't work if you're eating too many calories throughout the day. If you need more advice on how to work out your calorie deficit and you've not seen my other videos, then I recommend you checking out my other YouTube videos. So as long as your fundamentals are in place, then fasted cardio and all of these tips are there to accelerate the fast and to accelerate fat burning. The type of cardio I recommend is 60 minutes of walking at a medium to fast pace on an empty stomach. So you can do this first thing in the morning, before work, before school. You can do this before you eat your first meal. It's up to you when you do it, as long as it's in that fasting period. And just by doing that, you're going to burn so much more body fat. If you're the type of person that does HIIT cardio, you can definitely do HIIT cardio in the fasted period. HIIT cardio is high intensity interval training, and that basically means you're going all out. So it might only be a 5 to 10 minute workout, but you'll do maybe a 30-second all-out sprint, everything you have, followed by a 30 to 60-second rest, and you'll do the same for just a few minutes. That's really good for increasing testosterone, but also growth hormone, and we already have a 2000% increase in growth hormone during the fasting period. If you add HIIT cardio to that, that's really going to help. Tip number 4 is get more sleep. The more sleep you get, the more you're going to lose body fat, the more you're going to build muscle if you're training in the gym, the better mood you're going to be in for your family, your friends, your kids. You want to be in a better mood. You don't want to be a snappy person, somebody that is not a pleasure to be around. You're also going to have more energy. Everything is better if you have more sleep. I typically recommend a minimum of 7 hours per night and never to go any lower than that. And I don't recommend sleeping more than 9 hours per night, because you get to a certain point where you get diminishing returns, to where you sleep more than 9 hours, you start to feel more tired, you start to feel more lethargic, and it's not necessarily beneficial for people to sleep more than that. Tip number 5 is get more potassium, and I don't recommend getting it from one of these. Most people believe that getting potassium from one of these guys is one of the best ways to get potassium, but I disagree. I don't recommend getting it that way. The reason is because they really don't have much potassium in them, and so people don't realise how much potassium we need. We need around 4,000 to 7,000 milligrams of potassium a day. So most foods are just not going to have that level of potassium in there. So what I recommend you do is take it in a supplement form. Now let me just say, my disclaimer is that this is just what I do. I'm not necessarily telling you to do it. And if you want to do it and take my advice, then just speak with your doctor if you want to make any dietary changes. What I do is I take this product. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't have a link. You can't click on a link. I don't make any money from telling you to buy this product. I'm just sharing with you what I buy. And the reason I share that specific product with you is because first of all, you need potassium citrate. Don't go for potassium, you need potassium citrate. And the reason I'm sharing that product is because it's the only one I've found that is high enough in dosage to be able to get as much as you need. Now, for me personally, I only take around 3,000 milligrams a day, because I'm happy to be a little bit lower than what's recommended, and that's not an issue for me and my body. The issue with potassium citrate is that it tastes disgusting. So what I recommend doing is taking a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, put that in some water, then add your potassium powder to that, give that a mix up, and just drink it as fast as you can. It's not a very pleasant drink to have, but it is going to help you, and I'm going to explain some of the benefits right now. Also, don't have that in your fasting period. Have that right before your first meal, or you can have it before one of your meals during the day. Potassium does a lot of things, and it's one of those minerals that most people are deficient in. Almost everybody is deficient in potassium. But what's great about potassium is it fixes the excessive insulin issue, which really is why you can't lose body fat, because insulin is anabolic and it blocks fat burning. One of the reasons intermittent fasting works so well for fat loss is because you're not eating any calories, your insulin is really low. A high percentage of the population has insulin resistance, and we need to fix this. So by doing intermittent fasting and consuming the potassium, it's going to help you burn more body fat and speed up the benefits of intermittent fasting. So now, as promised, for the bonus tip, and this is probably one of the best bonus tips I've ever given, and probably the best tip in this whole video. And that's how and what foods to use to break your fast is very important, and I'm going to tell you which food you want to use. The reason it's very important is because of insulin. If you eat something like a very lean source of protein, such as a whey protein shake or a chicken breast, you're going to spike insulin a lot. Also carbohydrates, high glycemic carbohydrates such as honey or certain cereals are going to spike your insulin very high. You don't want a very high spike in insulin almost ever, and certainly not when you're breaking your fast. There is one exception to this rule, and that is if you're bulking, if you're trying to build muscle and you're doing a fasted workout, so you've had no calories in your body, then you need to eat immediately after your workout. And I actually recommend having something such as a whey protein shake and a high glycemic carbohydrate, because we actually want the insulin spike, but only if we're training fasted. If we're just breaking the fast, it's a normal standard day, you want to keep that insulin low. So I always recommend having carbs and proteins in that first meal. There's a lot of recommendations that I think are wrong. So we don't want high fat. The reason we don't want high fat on the first meal, and we do want high fat later in the day, but we don't want high fat in that first meal, because if you eat protein and carbohydrates, you basically open the cell. When you open the cell, the fat basically goes straight in there and gets stored as body fat. So we want to avoid as much fat as we can in the first meal, and we don't want anything that spikes the insulin. So what can we eat? So something like a pea protein is very good. A pea protein shake is going to be very good. That's not going to spike your insulin very much. Eggs is a very good source of protein that is not going to spike your insulin. You can eat oats for your carbohydrates, or going back a few paces, you can even have one of these guys as well. So what you could do, your first meal should be light, so you maybe want 30 to 50 grams of carbs, 30 to 50 grams of protein in your first meal, and then you eat your two bigger meals later in the day with your high fat.